Hi, my name is Jonathan, and today I would like to explore this topic of there are no photos of a globe Earth. There are three major proofs, so-called, that are touted by the establishment as proving a globe. One of those is Eratosthenes and his calculation of the circumference of the globe. We already talked about that in my video. 002, Eratosthenes is bunk, my second video in this particular series. And we demonstrated that Eratosthenes never actually proved that the Earth is a globe. So trying to use him as a proof, or suggesting that he is a proof, is just misleading and dishonest. The second thing that is largely cited as a proof of the globe is how ships disappear over the horizon, bottom up. And this is explained as being ships sailing over the curvature of the globe Earth. We talked about this actually a little bit in my second video, Eratosthenes is bunk. How this is a visual effect, and it has nothing to do with the curvature of the Earth, and you can demonstrate that very easily by pulling a ship that has disappeared to the naked eye back into focus using something like a Nikon P900 with its 80x digital zoom. And we discussed very briefly in that video how there are various optical effects that cause ships to disappear in that manner over the horizon, but it is not a proof of the globe Earth by any means. The third proof, that is proof so-called, that is often cited by globe believers as proof of a globe Earth, is photographs of the Earth from space. Well, actually, these simply do not exist. We have a lot of CG, we have a lot of photographs and video taken with fisheye lenses, which distort the image and make things appear to be curved when they are not. And we do have photos from satellites, but there are no pictures of a globe Earth, no photographs of a globe Earth, because a globe Earth does not exist. And the blue marble images that you see are fabrications made from stitched together data sets wrapped around a globe and fabricated. And we will, at a later point in this video, touch upon that. So actually I meant to do kind of a roadmap of where we're going in this video. Let's type that out briefly. So first we're going to go with satellites as balloons, and there is no orbit. We'll discuss Felix Baumgartner's jump from the edge of space. There's some curvature in that video that is fake curvature induced by a fisheye lens, and we'll discuss fisheye lenses and image distortion, which makes it look like you're looking at a globe. And then we will look at SpaceX's footage of the Tesla Roadster and show that that footage is absolutely fabricated, CG, falsified, and Elon Musk is lying to us concerning that footage. He actually said you can tell that it's real, honestly, because it looks so fake. And we're going to demonstrate quite clearly that that footage is absolutely fabricated. And then we will look at NASA's photos on their own websites and show that they are not depicting anywhere a globe Earth The best that they've got photo-wise would be some high-altitude balloon photos. But there are no photos of a globe Earth because it doesn't exist. And think about this as we go into this. It would be so easy to prove a globe Earth from photographs. We have all these countries putting rovers on the moon. We're told that China went up there and put up reflecting mirrors. We're told that we went up there. Why has no one put a 24/7 live streaming camera on the moon giving us constant footage of the globe Earth? This would be an easy thing to do, or have something similar suspended from a satellite showing the globe Earth 24/7 via live stream. We have live streams from all around the world of, that are set up in downtown areas or set up observing eagles' nests or what have you, so that people can pull these things up and watch them 24/7 right on their computer. Why are there no live streams of a globe Earth? And SpaceX's 4-hour supposed live stream coverage of the Tesla Roadster propaganda event was not a live stream of any real event actually taking place at all. We will demonstrate that. Photographic evidence of a globe Earth should be easily obtainable if NASA can do what they say they can do, and if NASA knows what they say they know. But we're going to show you today that there are no photos of a globe Earth, and this is pretty damning evidence that the globe Earth does not actually exist. So to start us off, let's go talk about ECHO, which was NASA's first communications satellite. Now, if you ever saw a very small photo of this in a science textbook or what have you, you may have thought that this was a metal orb. And if you thought that, maybe like me, you wondered how could they get a solid metal satellite of this size into orbit? Well, the answer is they didn't. This is actually a balloon. And in this very decent quality photo, quite large, you can see quite clearly that this is a balloon. And here's the inflation hose right here on the side. And while they call this a satellite, in their description they acknowledge that it's a balloon. ECHO, NASA's first communications satellite, was a passive air spacecraft based on a balloon design created by an engineer at the Langley Research Center. Made of mylar, the satellite measured 100 feet in diameter. Once in orbit, residual air inside the balloon expanded, and the balloon began its task of reflecting radio transmissions from one ground station back to another. ECHO 1 satellites like this one generated a lot of interest because they could be seen with the naked eye from the ground as they passed overhead. 2 points here. Firstly, orbit is a myth. It does not exist. It is a fantasy that was created by the science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke. There is no orbit, not as we think of it. Orbit really just means suspension above the Earth plane, and in this case, this was done by the under the power of buoyant lifting gases. This is a balloon. They call it a satellite, but they acknowledge that it's a balloon. And this was launched, Project ECHO, in, I believe, 1960. Let me just see if I can verify that. Ground inflation tests in 1959, and then I was sure the date was in here. Yeah, here we go. NASA launched the ECHO 1 communications balloon satellite on August 12, 1960. So for 60 years, they have had high-altitude balloon technology, and they just call these satellites. They tell us they're in orbit. They're not. They're just traveling over the flat Earth plane. This is This is the true nature of your communications satellite and satellites today. So firstly, orbit, as we're the science fiction version of orbit, of things finding that sweet spot where they can just kind of cruise passively around a globe Earth at that gravitational sweet spot distance. That doesn't exist. And notice here that these satellites, these balloons, generate a lot of interest because they could be seen with the naked eye from the ground as they passed overhead. So there's a video available on Vimeo called Shoot the Moon, and that's put out by a guy named, I think his username is Crow777, something like that. But this documentary, Shoot the Moon, is about how he filmed for the first time a phenomenon called the lunar wave. Definitely, it is a paid video, but it's definitely worth a watch. Highly recommend you go look it up. It's called Shoot the Moon. It's available on Vimeo, and to my knowledge, only on Vimeo. And it has a lot of high-def footage of the moon and of some objects passing over the face of the moon that can be seen with photographic equipment and sometimes the naked eye. There are things up there floating around that can be seen with the naked eye. So when they tell you, you know, you can track the ISS on this path and see it from this location at such and such a time, well, yeah, you're seeing something up there, but they're not giving you the full story. You're not seeing exactly what they are telling you you're seeing. But there's definitely stuff up there. There are balloon satellites. There are, you know, any manner of powered craft, high altitude spy planes. There are drones. There are orbs. These orbs are really interesting. Maybe I'll do another video on that if people are interested. Let me know in the comments. I'm not going to specifically cover metal orbs in this video, but it's a fascinating topic. And these things are very heavy, and occasionally they fall out of the sky. And people have taken video footage of them. But let's actually look at some video footage of crashed satellites, so-called, and we'll find that they are balloons. They have a balloon attached whenever they are found. So here we go. So first things first, yeah, let's pull up some of these. I'm just going to mute these because the sound's not tremendously useful to us. Yeah, so here we go. This one crashed in Brazil, and you can clearly see the tether. You can clearly see the balloon draped over this tree. Satellites are balloons. I'll just let this roll to the end, and then we'll take a look at another one. Some of these balloons are the size of a football stadium, and they can suspend a payload of tons of material. So these satellites can be, this one's a fairly small, lightweight one. These satellites can have quite an array of equipment on them and be quite substantial. One YouTuber put together footage of one of these very large satellites being dragged over the surface of the ground, and the satellite was so massive it was just destroying outbuildings and actually threatens people's lives, as because it wasn't fully crashed and grounded. It was the balloon was still partially inflated, and it was dragging the satellite along the surface of the Earth. There's footage of these things being launched from ships. Here's another one. Crashed satellite, and look, balloon envelope. This is the nature of satellites. They are balloons. Sci-fi orbit is a fantasy, a fabrication. Alright, well, there we go. Here's another one. Crashed satellite. You can clearly see the balloon material in the background draped on the surrounding foliage. You can see the flashing light from the satellite, which is a balloon. Let me actually pull this one. And you can do a search on these things for yourself and find similar footage to this. I'm just kind of showing this for illustrative purposes. There's probably higher def video than some of these out there. Alright, there you have it. Now, whenever the media gets a hold of this, they give it the treatment, and you aren't given the full story anymore. So watch this one. You'll notice that they're really careful not to show the balloon envelope, but you can clearly see the tether going up from the crashed satellite, which demonstrates that the balloon envelope is probably draped over a tree somewhere, but they are really careful never to actually show you the balloon. Why? Well, because they're lying to you. They're supporting the establishment narrative. Yeah, see right there. Whoop. Let's, alright, so they're talking about how this is on a small farm. Right here, here's the tether, and it's going up. It's not just standing in the air on its own. It's probably draped on a tree that's maybe whose trunk is over here somewhere. They are intentionally not panning the camera around to show the environment and show whatever it is that that tether is hooked up on. But they will acknowledge later in this video that this was a balloon. See, you can see the tether right there. And right there, clearly material straps hung up on something. Space selfie, it's called. Now watch this very carefully. Samsung Europe's space selfie balloon came back down to Earth. And here's the story. During this planned descent of the balloon to land in the U.S., weather conditions resulted in an early soft landing in a selected rural area. And then this is obviously CG or fabricated footage or what have you. So there you have it. Satellites are balloons. That's pretty conclusive. You can go over to NASA's website. I mean, these two stories, the background info on Project Echo and this photograph of the satellite balloon. This is right on nasa.gov, straight from the horse's mouth. They've had this technology for decades. They've perfected it. They can, they have balloons that move over the surface of the Earth plane. They have balloons that are fixed and stationary. And they function exactly how they tell us satellites function. But they're not in orbit. They're balloons. They're held aloft by buoyant gases. Let's ask a little question here. World's largest helium consumer. Helium market. Let's phrase that as a question. I know Google pops up NASA, which is the correct answer, right away. I don't know if DuckDuckGo will or not. Alright, well here's a little snippet. Macy's is the world's second largest helium consumer. Makes sense, because of their balloon parades behind the U.S. government. I'm just going to go to google.com, because if you ask them the question, they're a bit more specific. Who is the world's largest consumer of helium? NASA. There we go. 75 million cubic feet. Why? Because satellites are balloons. End of story.
It's still climbing, and you'll start reliving here in a little bit when bit. Release.
If you're scared and walk away, cause there's no need to feel ashamed. Yeah, we all feel the same. Whoa, where's your passion? Where's your fire today?
Alright, now. The whole road is looking now. I'm going over. Jumper away. Speed 725. Showing Felix in a stable descent. And Felix is back to rest safely, the new world record holder.
Alright, so let's go ahead and examine this Felix Baumgartner video in more detail. This time with the sound muted and just a commentary. So you can see here they're inflating the balloon to raise his capsule up. This is a pretty similar process to what we already described with satellites. And you'll see some more footage of that going forward here. Let's go ahead and just play the video. Alright, there's the porthole or door, whatever you want to call it. You can see the tethers to the balloon as they inflate it, and they do the same process, sometimes even with a crane for satellite balloons as well. So he's going up. He's going up to, I believe, 128,000 feet, which is approximately 24 miles. And as he goes up, notice, did you see it? The curvature in that, yeah. Let's go back just a tad so you can see that clearly. Here we go. Okay, so the exterior camera is using a fisheye lens. That's why you got this dramatic curvature here. But all the land down here, look at it. He's not that high up at this point, and all this land is, I believe it's New Mexico is where this was taking place. And then we'll see, at the moment he opens the door, gets ready to exit the capsule, there is no fisheye lens on this interior camera. Look at this. Horizon is flat and level. But then as soon as he exits the capsule, we have extreme curvature due to the fisheye lens. Then he gets ready, he does his thing, and he jumps. So there's tons of curvature. You can clearly see all throughout this video that Baumgartner has a limited range of vision. That's what's causing this visual effect. He's not seeing half of the globe Earth. He's not seeing the curvature of the Earth. Here he comes. Now the camera that's on him, alright, I don't know if they're going to show it in this one or not, but when he's 5 feet from the ground, try to see if because of the fisheye lens, you can still see curvature from that camera. Let's see if we got it here. Alright, so obviously he's not 5 feet from the ground in this, but you actually see here, due to the fisheye, the curvature of what you're seeing is based on its orientation in the camera lens. So if you're just looking straight on at a horizon, it's still probably going to be looking pretty flat, but with a fisheye, as things get towards the outer parts of the lens, you get more and more distortion and curvature. And in this case, you can actually see the horizon is inverted. Obviously, that's not a realistic representation. This is due to the fisheye lens that's on this camera. And when Baumgartner was 5 feet above the ground, he could still see curvature due to the fisheye, not that he was actually seeing curvature of the Earth from that height. So if anyone ever tells you that they were in a plane and they could clearly see the curvature of the Earth, well, the truth is, no, they didn't, and we'll explore that in a little more detail here. we'll see what one of the high priests of scientism, Neil deGrasse Tyson, has to say about Baumgartner and curvature. First, we'll go to an interview of Baumgartner, and where he actually says, "Oh, I could see the curvature of the Earth." So he's going to make that claim. Let's check that out next.
Well, when I was standing outside that capsule, it was a very quiet and peaceful moment, you know. At that moment, you look at the world, it looks very fragile. You could see the curvature of the Earth.
All right, so we actually see that Felix Baumgartner claimed to have seen the curvature of the Earth in his interview. However, he did not. Here is a video clip of Neil deGrasse Tyson, who, let me point out that this guy is one of the most rabid anti-flat earthers out there, and he, in one of his shows, came out and explicitly said that you have to choose between science or religion. You can't have it both ways. And he is one of the high priests of scientism. But look what he has to say here about Felix Baumgartner's claim that Felix saw the curvature of the Earth during his jump from space. Let's watch this together.
You've been lied to by textbooks, and that dude who jumped out of a perfectly good balloon, what's his name? Felix Baumgartner. He would have been about 2 millimeters above the surface of this globe. That's his edge of space jump. Now, you know, I don't. It's fine. He wants to. I don't have a problem if he does it, but the honesty of it would greatly diminish what I think people thought he was actually doing. And not only that, they made sure to photograph him standing there with a really wide-angle lens, which curves horizontal lines. So in the photo, you see this curvature of Earth's surface, and he said, "Wow, he's in space. Look at that."
You could see the curvature of the Earth.
No, he's not. At that height, you don't see the curvature of the Earth if you are 2 millimeters above this beach ball. You just don't. That stuff is flat.
So you can't see the curvature of the Earth at 120,000 feet. I think it was actually closer to 128,000 feet, but it was somewhere between approximately 23, 24 miles, something like that, if I recall correctly. So essentially, anyone who tells you that they know the Earth is round because they've seen the curvature from a high altitude plane, this is quite simply incorrect. No one flying in a commercial plane has ever seen the curvature of a globe Earth. You can't see it from that height. Now, let's also be very clear about something, that at altitude you can see the Earth as a circular disk below you, but that's different. Seeing the circle of the Earth simply is an effect of you being at the center of a circle formed by the limit of your vision in all directions. But that is not the same thing as seeing the curvature of the Earth, but I think sometimes people get that mixed up and mistakenly say that they're seeing curvature when they're not. As Neil deGrasse Tyson points out, you cannot see curvature at the heights that Felix Baumgartner jumped from, therefore you cannot see curvature from a high altitude airplane either. So in discussing some of these things with my family, my brother mentioned, well, what about that live stream of the Tesla Roadster in orbit around the Earth? And I had heard about it, but I didn't watch it live when the event was happening. When SpaceX supposedly put this thing up there, and here's the footage. And my brother was under the impression that it was a continuous live stream, which it was not. There was a 4-hour supposed live stream during the event itself, where they really didn't show any of the actual details of how the vehicle was supposedly deployed into orbit. They kind of just black out all those parts and then just show it up there, like this, with multiple camera angles. So here we have Starman, the name of the dummy in a spacesuit that is supposedly in the Tesla Roadster. Elon Musk said that none of the materials used in the Roadster were space hardened, so they just put it up there as is. And here you go. Now, I was able to go online then and find and download the full 4-hour supposed live stream of this event. And I was just kind of clicking through the video. I didn't really want to watch the entire 4 hours, and I was just kind of clicking through at random to see if I could see anything that looked unusual. And it just so happens that I did. I, purely by chance or accident or coincidence or what have you, I think actually that God just pointed me in the right spot, but I clicked into about 3 hours and 33 minutes. Actually, I think it ended up being a little bit more around the 3:38 mark of this video. But we'll click in at 3:30, 3:33. We'll pop around a little bit and see if we can find what I found. And I happened to pop in just at the moment that they were having some technical difficulties with their CG rendering that they used to put together this footage, because it's not a live stream of an actual Tesla Roadster in actual orbit around an actual globe Earth. This is all CG. You have in the background probably some kind of green screen, some kind of multi-layered computer-generated visuals here. And let's just pop in and see it for ourselves, and then we'll also see what Elon Musk had to say about this particular publicity gimmick. But understand that initially, when there was talk about privatizing space travel, there was extreme resistance from the establishment, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, this is happening, and it happened. Well, the thing is that all the right people were brought into line with how things are actually done, and everyone is faking this stuff. All the space agencies, all the private and governmental. And actually, it's really funny if you pull up JAXA videos, which is Japan's space agency, or videos of that Russia has put out. It's even easier in some of them to spot camera glitches and weirdness. Actually, you just saw some flashing stuff there. It's even easier to spot it because they're, I don't know what you want to call it, computing or technical resources or whatever are even more subpar than NASA's, which fail them quite often, and you get to see the visual glitches. And actually that right there, where they flash up the logo and then black the screen out, that was because they were starting to have some computer issues. You saw the boxes pop in there. And I believe it was at the 2:38 mark, we'll see a different view of Starman there in the Roadster, and we'll see some issues with the globe Earth in the background. Yeah, here we are. What you will see is the globe Earth slowly moving across the background of this shot. And when the leading curve of the globe Earth hits about this point on the screen, approximately the middle, you'll see that the globe starts glitching out. It at one point sort of gets squished or compressed sideways. You'll see some graphical artifacts, some stuttering. Meanwhile, it would appear, to my eyes anyway, like the Tesla Roadster in the foreground is pristine and fine. And what's going to happen is when these visual glitches get very glaringly obvious, all of a sudden they'll pop in that screen and black everything out, so you can't see, when things fully freeze up or, get really bad or whatever. And then they'll probably conveniently cut, if I remember, to another camera angle or something afterwards to cover up the mistake. But this video is really just full of irregularities all throughout that pretty conclusively demonstrate that this is CG footage. You are not seeing footage of a real globe Earth here. Here we go. So everything's nice and smooth to start off with as the Earth comes around behind the Tesla Roadster. And here we're coming up to it. You'll see that it starts to stutter, go weird, change aspects. Oh, yep, and there we go. Technical difficulties. We're back, but you can see that they still haven't really fixed things, and we got glitching, stuttering, popping in the background. I'm just going to pause to point out something here. This image is incredibly reminiscent of something that we call the blue marble. So you've doubtless seen over the years many different images from NASA of a globe Earth. And NASA calls these blue marbles. And they interviewed one fellow who did one of the original blue marble, whom they actually call Mr. Blue Marble. Let me pull that up in a web browser here. Mr. Blue Marble. This fellow in an interview actually admitted that, yeah, here we go, Robert Simon. I don't know if they'll have the actual interview here. They do, right on NASA's website. But he admits that these images are basically stitched together from data and put together in Photoshop. I don't know if in this Q&A here, as listed out, they will highlight that or not. But in an interview that he did, he actually admits it outright. And you can see that here. By 2002, we finally had enough data to make a snapshot of the entire Earth. One thing that's fascinating, though, is see this right here in the demo, or in the interview video, this fellow calls this the specular highlight, this little shine of sunlight on the surface of the ocean, supposedly. Well, here in Starman we have our specular highlight as well. It's actually almost in the same place, but you can just clearly see that it's the same sort of technology that they've used. There's this footage to me is not credible proof at all of a globe Earth. They put this stuff out there, and people who want to believe it because they've never been taught to question it. But once you start really looking in detail at this stuff critically, you start seeing that none of this is particularly remarkable or sophisticated as compared to things that Hollywood can do. Yeah, here's a better view of the specular highlight that I just mentioned. And it looks very similar to these many blue marble images that are out there and how they do the specular highlight there. This stuff is easy to do. Now let's actually take a little break and see what Elon Musk has to say about this stuff.
The next question from Marcia Dunn at Associated Press.
Marcia Dunn, AP. What was going through your mind? How amazed were you to see your roadster up there with Starman just cruising along with the Blue Planet? And how long will we be getting live views, do you think, from the car?
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly. Like, we'd have way better CGI if it was fake. And you know, the colors all look kind of weird in space. There's no atmospheric occlusion. You know, like everything looks too crisp. But we didn't really test any of those materials for, you know, is it space hardened or whatever, you know. So it just has the same seats that like a normal car has. It's just literally a normal car in space, which I kind of like the absurdity of that. And if you look closely, on the dashboard, there's a tiny roadster with a tiny spaceman. So.
All right, so did you get all that? They didn't really do anything with this to harden it for the extreme radiation that it would be exposed to in outer space. And he just outright says that it looks fake, which it does. It is fake. But the question that I would put out at this point is, why did he feel the need to get out in front of it and say stuff like that in the first place, to kind of disarm the concept that it could be fake or that it looks fake? Were people already at the time that this was happening saying it was fake? Is this attempt to get out in front of the naysayers who might pop up later saying that it's fake? Well, it is fake, and Elon Musk is outright lying to us. If you know anything about those elites who run our world, Elon Musk, his girlfriend, and his mother are all part of these, the secret one-eyed religion, these secret societies. I may, in a later video, if I have time, we are kind of building up to this, I may cover this in more detail. We will see. For now, though, I will just say, and this will be significant to some of you, and maybe not significant at all to others, and maybe it is just a coincidence, but Starman is actually an anagram of Mr. Satan, just interestingly enough. Make of that what you will. So I know the statement that there are no photos of a globe Earth from space is a pretty strong one, and I would really encourage you to go over to NASA's own website and look at the sorts of material that they're putting out there in terms of photographs and purported photographs and video footage of a globe Earth, and look at this stuff for yourself and ask yourself, could this be CG? With our modern technology, could it be? And actually you'll see that a lot of this stuff is, and actually a lot of the older stuff is very demonstrably CG. Now they are getting better and better at faking space, and we are going to hit a point at some point where it's just impossible to tell. But a lot of this stuff is indeed computer models, CGI. But let's look at some of this stuff just to kind of see what's what. So these are just images from space put into a video. That one is not really very instructive, but there are, okay, yes, there's several here that look like they depict a globe Earth. And let me point out that that many of these, just by adding curvature to an existing video, you sort of get an instant product. But let's take a look at some of these and see what we can see. And some of these are quite long, so we're not going to have time to look at them all in depth. But this is Europe from space. So we do have curvature here. We see that there's the very common thing that we often see in NASA videos where they've added overlays, well, graphics and stuff to add legitimacy to the video, but they like to also put in these overlays that show part of a satellite or part of the ISS or whatever in the foreground to make it look real. But notice that this curvature could very easily just be computer generated, and that this image doesn't even show the entirety of the globe, just a portion of it. Yeah, none of this is conclusive. This may actually be high altitude balloon footage that has simply been curved and touched up with some set dressing to make it look a little bit more realistic. But this is definitely not conclusive proof of a globe Earth by any means. Continuing on. So that was Europe, the Europe video. Okay, Earth Day 2017, 4K Earth views from space. I suspect we'll see the same sort of thing here. Alright, so horizon seemingly portraying slight curvature. But again, that's not hard to do. This could easily be real footage. It doesn't look like it's super high in altitude. Again, this could very easily be a balloon or balloon footage with just a foreground overlay to add legitimacy. Doesn't really depict the whole globe. Let's go on and see what we can see. That's interesting. What is that? Well, you can peruse some of this on your own if you have questions. Alright, so here we've got probably the moon in the distance. We do see what appears to be curvature, but they're not showing the whole globe Earth. They're just showing an expanse. Again, I see nothing conclusive here that proves a globe Earth. Let's try this one. I'm very skeptical about this for a number of reasons. One thing that they do quite often that looks absolutely fake to me are these weird effects around the edge of the globe Earth. Often you get a weird greenish glow layer in some of their imaging, or in this case, this does not. I don't find this to be particularly convincing at all. So you'll often see images that have no stars whatsoever, and we're told the reason for that is because the bodies shown in the foreground are so incredibly bright. For example, if I recall, I think the footage that we already viewed of let's see if I have it here. Yeah, of Starman, I believe we were not seeing stars in that. And that was one criticism that people who saw the video and questioned it were complaining about. Where are the stars in the background? And the answer was given was that you can't see the stars because of the brightness of the objects in the foreground, that the camera exposure is such that it can't pick up those stars. I don't know, but sometimes we see stars, sometimes we don't. Obviously, this does have stars, which seems a little weird because the Earth is right here. We have this brilliant reflection, but we're able to see stars quite clearly in the background there. I personally think this is just a CG image. We see the same inconsistency in the testimony of astronauts. There are some in the modern era who say, oh yeah, you can see all kinds of stuff up there. You can see stars, you can see planets, but then you have the Apollo astronauts on the record saying, no, don't recall seeing any stars or anything. Very inconsistent story there. Let's continue on. Yes, that was this one, which I think is just flat out CG. I don't know that we're... Alright, so we have Jeff's Earth. Why is it called Jeff's Earth? Jeff Williams. UHD video camera from 250 miles up. This could well be embellished real footage with a curvature artificially induced. It's very high quality. This could easily be high altitude balloon footage that has been manipulated. I don't know that I buy it being 250 miles up, though. Again, though, I'm also not seeing that's interesting right there. It seems to me there's a little line. Don't know what that means. Go back there. Yeah. If you look very carefully here, maybe it's just some overlay in the upper corner, or maybe part of the purported, yeah, like a solar panel or something. A supposed solar panel. Anyway, it's interesting to look through this stuff. Again, though, we never saw the entirety of the globe Earth. They just don't show us that. So we have Earth in 4K, 0G Hail Mary Pass UHD. Obviously, a lot of this is CG. Well, you can look through some of this stuff on your own and try to ascertain if you think that this stuff is real. I mean, so that was a little graphic there. think this is gonna be what we are looking for. No, this is probably, yeah, this was the thumbnail for the video. There's nothing conclusive about that. It doesn't show the entirety of the globe Earth. Alright, we'll do one or two more. Ultra high def of the planet. That bulge seems very extreme. That's interesting there. Probably city lights, I would guess. Sometimes you see them on the dark side of the Earth, sometimes you don't. NASA is very inconsistent in the footage they put out on that. Is this real or not? Honestly, I do not know. Can't tell. Certainly not conclusive proof positive of a globe Earth. Ocean moon glint and city night lights. Did we look at this one already? I think we did. I believe that was the one that I said I felt was just CG. So NASA synthesis, NASA data visualizations in Ultra HD. So this looks like it does show the hole. Reading the blurb here. Yes, this is clearly just simulation and models. This is the level of stuff that they're able to do. Let's look at that. It looks very cool. But that is not reality. Clearly a CG model. Same. Same. Yeah, I stand by the premise of this video. You cannot get footage this good of Jupiter. Basically, they have super extrapolated and enhanced or created a computer model. It's really funny if you think about it. So we shoot these probes off into the void of space, so-called. And you know, some of them, because these trips that we're sending them on take years and years, some of them were made with pretty old technology, but they make it out to the outer orbits of the outer planets, and suddenly the the camera equipment on these probes is able to capture, pictures of Pluto or what have you in super HD. It's just ridiculous. It's like these probes just magically and instantaneously upgraded all their optical equipment to be able to capture those super high definition images. When you realize that NASA's just faking all this stuff, and as their technology expands, they're cranking out better quality stuff, it makes a lot more sense. Anyway, it is in the early morning here, and I pulled an all-nighter to put together some other things and most of the rest of this video, so we're going to call it quits here at this point. Thank you for watching, and I hope you will think these things over for yourself. Anyway, bye for now. Hey everyone, if you are interested in serious flat earth material, then I would highly recommend that you head over to the Flat Earth Podcast website. This is put together by a guy named David Weiss, and he's also the guy that gave us the let's see, Flat Earth, yeah, here we go. Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, which is by Blue Water Bay. This is probably one of the best working models of the serious flat Earth. And on his website he has just a ton of resources, but this is all serious flat Earth stuff. Links to all the best. It's not going to be Flat Earth Society rubbish or controlled opposition, and just hundreds of videos, tons of resources. If you're interested in digging into this stuff, this is a great place to begin. He has a YouTube channel as well, DITRH, Deep in the Rabbit Hole, where he puts up and keeps track of a lot of these serious flat earth resources as well. So definitely a great resource for anyone who wants to get started looking into this stuff for themselves. I am doing these videos because I feel that it's something that I need to do. So for me, this really isn't a job or a way to make money. But that being said, if you would like to support me, there's one way that you can do that. You could purchase one of my books. Currently I have several self-published books on Amazon.com. The most important of these books is this one here, How America Ends. This is a book that talks about the Mystery Babylon prophecies from the Bible. And the Bible is very clear that Mystery Babylon is a worldview. It's a particular group of evil families. It is a nation, and it is a city. And, well, America is Mystery Babylon, and I think that is very clear if you examine what the Bible has to say about it in Daniel, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and John's Revelation. This book was written in summer of 2019, and I mention a particular biblical sign that God talks about in Jeremiah, which is that prior to the end there will be a civil war within the land of Mystery Babylon. And in my book, keep in mind this is long before the turmoil of the 2020 election cycle, I talk about how one catalyst for that future civil war could be a fixed election. And these are things that I picked up simply from studying the scriptures. So if you are interested in this sort of thing, then by all means feel free to check out my book.